Welcome. Happy Monday to you. So, as we often do, we can start by taking a look at our intention. Our intention is very powerful. The intention is what gives shape to the experience. So if you just observe, and we'll try to go a little bit step by step today so that this can be certain to be a direct experience for everybody. But I'll just sort of set the stage now and suggest to you that if you observe carefully your experience, you'll see that so this experience is constantly changing. You notice that. It's pretty easy to notice that there's nothing that is constant in terms of the experience. So the experience consists of color, sound, shape, movement, sensation, image, thought, anything that you can observe, anything you can be aware of, right? And you notice that's always changing. And then you notice that whatever it is that is changing, clearly you cannot be that, or at least you cannot be exclusively that. You cannot be defined by that, because that's always changing. And you know, obviously, that you are continuously present. So now, you notice that continuously you are present, even though everything is changing. So everything, both what you would consider to be external or other, as well as what you would consider to be internal or self, that's all changing. Well, when I say what you would consider to be self, anything you can observe or conceive of or conceptualize. So you notice that that's all changing, but you're here continuously. So you can't be that which is changing, because that comes and goes. Hopefully that's obvious. Whatever it is, it's gone now. It was, and now it's gone. So if you were that, you would also be gone, but you're still here. So you're that which is continuously present. So this is what we'll get clearer on step by step, as I say, so that it's clearly a direct experience for everybody. But just notice, to whatever degree you can notice that now, and you see that, of course, there's no real division between the formless and the form, between the changeless and the changing. Can't find that distinction. So it's an artificial distinction that we make for the purpose of pointing, for the purpose is provisional. But you can see that this silent, continuous, formless self, which you can never get hold of, you can never conceptualize, you can never, to the satisfaction of your mind, wrap yourself around it and say, I've got it. But yet it's always here. It's obvious. It's the most intimate sense of yourself. Now notice that this is the foundation, the essence from which everything is appearing. And you notice that if you just stay with for just a moment, just observe. And I realize, for the sake of making sure that everybody's on the same page experientially, I'm getting a little bit ahead. So why don't we just pause there, and we'll bring it back just to the intention, and then we can go step by step so that this can be a clear experiential discovery for everybody. So in terms of intention, the main thing that I want to say about that is, just as I said, that this intention is what gives shape to the experience. So, and that's why I was going on that slight digression. So to the whatever degree it's possible for you now, you may be able to observe that. You may be able to notice that this silent, formless self is the totality. It is complete. It is lacking nothing. And there's no division whatsoever. So there's no self and other. There's no here and there. There's no this and that. So intention doesn't exist here, and there's no experience here, and there's no shape to the experience, obviously. But then you notice that there's this continuum. And again, this may or may not be obvious to you now, but once we go step by step, it should be clearer to everybody. But some of you for sure will be able to see this now. You can see that here is the silent, formless self, and then there's this waking state or waking dream, phenomenal reality, phenomenal world that we're usually giving most of our attention to. And some of you, that's not the case, because some of you now notice that you're aware of your formless self much more than you used to be. But this is the sort of the default for the majority of people is to have their majority of their attention on the gross level. So a lot of form, labeling, thinking, without necessarily being aware of that, but there's just a great deal of fixation on that. And so usually there's this big kind of gap that's all fuzzy and hazy, and we don't really have any skill there or any real competence, because all we know how to do is to, everybody enters deep sleep at night, which is this absorption into the formless, and then they sort of just pop out into this gross level fixation and spend most of the waking state at this level, the gross level of the phenomenal reality. And so there's this continuum in between, so to speak. And this, again, this is all provisional, but this is where we usually don't notice to our, it's at our expense. We lose by not noticing. We win by noticing. So, but we usually don't notice all of what's in this gap, this continuum between these two extremes. And here is where it's beneficial for us to take a look and see how our intention gives shape to the experience. Because realistically, we're not going to get rid of the waking state. I mean, here, this is this creation that's occurring. Let's not go to war with that. We don't need to try and obliterate that in order to be free or to know our freedom. But we want to cultivate awareness, continuous awareness, and skill and competence over this continuum, so that this can be fully integrated, and to have this awareness of the power of intention is very useful. So we want to be clear on why we're here, because we're taking this time. And the intention that we have for this time gives shape to it. So you see, because what will happen is, I should say, there's also, even without your conscious awareness, there's an unconscious motivator, intention, drive to be here, which is being fulfilled. And that is to know yourself, to have this competence, to have this clarity, to know your innate freedom. But if that's not, when it's unconscious, it's not as powerful as when it's conscious. So it occurs very, very slowly if it's unconscious. And then you can attend meetings like this for a very long time. And if it's unconscious, the waking up process is very, very slow and painful and confusing. But if we make it conscious, then it's much more rapid. So we want to make it conscious. So we want to be clear on what is the intention. So just take a look and see, first of all, there's a level at which there's an intention. And this is why, by the way, if it's just purely unconscious, then it's slow. It's because there are other intentions that clutter and compete. And they compete, so they slow it down because they're opposed to the deeper, truer intention to know yourself fully, to be fully awake, to live this continuous recognition of yourself. So we want to uncover those unconscious competing intentions so that we can shine the light of awareness on them and see, is that really what I want? So look to see what are some of these intentions, and you'll most likely be able to recognize that there's an intention. I just want to feel better. I want to feel good. I'm tired of feeling bad. I want to feel good. I'm tired of feeling anxious. I want to feel peaceful. I'm tired of feeling angry. I want to feel happy. I'm tired of feeling fearful. I want to feel confident. Okay, so see how there's an intention, most likely. And that's not necessarily bad or wrong, but see how the frame of reference from which you judge whether you're successful in this. How do you know whether you're feeling the way you want to feel? That judgment arises from your unconscious conditioning. So the desire and the intention and the means by which you judge whether that has been successfully fulfilled or not, both arise from the same conditioning. And here it's a bit like I often say, it's like trying to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. You don't have the leverage to succeed here because you see you want something, and that desire arises from the conditioning. The determination as to whether you've succeeded or failed in achieving that also arises from the conditioning. But you see, the larger context, and the only one that really matters, has nothing to do with that conditioning. What actually matters to you is yourself. And who you are. That's why who you are, the recognition of yourself, is the most important thing. Vastly, vastly more important than these other intentions of, I want to feel good. because you see, if you say, I want to feel good, you don't know what that even means. And I'm not, I am now, but I wasn't pointing a finger and blaming you. I'm not blaming you, but I wasn't pointing a finger, and then I was. But I'm pointing it out because this is a huge time saver, and it will spare you a great deal of unnecessary suffering if you can recognize what I'm pointing at. That this desire to feel good, actually, you don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. None of us knows what that means. Or let's say there's no absolute basis for that. It's purely a product of the conditioning. Entirely a product of the conditioning. And that conditioning, no matter what you do, no matter how you modify the conditioning, will not give you the deep satisfaction that can only arise from knowing who you are. So hopefully I'm making that clear to you. Okay, hopefully I'm describing that in a way that you can recognize, because it's so important. And I'm pointing it out because I recognize this is a recurring habit in my own experience. So I can only point out to you what I actually recognize. See, that's the value of this, is that I'm not just giving you theory. I'm not just telling you what I've read in a book. I'm pointing out from my own experience so that you can see the same. And then this is you can piggyback on that, because see, there's a great, and it quickens things tremendously, enormously. That's the real power of this. That's the real power of direct experience, because you see, it's actually one self. Many personalities, many egos, many bodies, many minds, but just one self. And this one self can transfer. It's like whispering from one, like in a great chain. It's whispering, and it's saying, here's the secret. It's been distilled. Here's the essence of what has been recognized, and now pointing so you can recognize it for yourself. So you just see, because again, it's so important that any attempt to say, I just want to feel good, or I want to stop feeling bad, will never produce the satisfaction that you really want. It will only actually feed into a vicious cycle. And so getting clear on what is the truer, deeper intention is the thing that quickens all of this. So look and see what will really satisfy you. You, in the moment, because there's a kind of squeezing pressure, there's a kind of sense of urgency, there's a anxiety or a fear, we don't really consider it deeply. Instead, we just sort of go along with the program, which is, I feel bad, I want to feel good, and that's got to be the right answer. But I'm inviting you to look deeply now and see, well, what will that really satisfy me? You've got to imagine this. You've got to imagine, okay, I feel good. Now what? Is it really satisfying? And it's not hard, but it does require sincerity. If you were just willing to be vulnerable and sincere with yourself, not with anyone else. You don't have to be vulnerable with anyone else, just with yourself. Just be vulnerable in this moment with yourself and truthful. You'll see, oh my goodness, no, it won't satisfy me at all. The same the same problem still exists, which is and you may not recognize what it is, but take a look and see. Here's what it is you don't know who you are. And out of this not knowing who you are, every other problem arises, because then you say, well, I'm unstable. I'm not satisfied. I'm not confident. I'm needy. I'm desperate. I'm fearful. I don't want to die. I'm afraid I'm going to die. I'm afraid I can be destroyed. See, every problem arises from this not knowing who you are. So now, clearly, and you see this, the only sincere, heartfelt desire is, I want to know who I am. So now, with that intention, hopefully that's a clear intention you can see for yourself. Then, of course, the mind maybe becomes agitated. Oh no, I don't know. How do I know if that's right? And how do I do that? How do I achieve that? And I feel very unsettled. So now let's, step by step, we'll just inquire directly for ourselves. So we'll start out, just bring your awareness to your breath. So just notice the breath. And if it's reasonably comfortable for you to do so, put your hands on your abdomen and see if you can do that in a way that you can let everything be fairly relaxed. So just notice, if you put your hands on the abdomen, maybe kind of have the shoulders hunched up, or tension in the shoulders or the arms or in the neck or whatever. And just take a moment just to kind of find a way to do this without strain, because we want to just be able to rest the hands here for a few moments. So they don't have to be pressed hard against the belly. It's just so that you can feel the belly a little bit. So whatever, fingertips, palms, whatever's comfortable. And just breathe and notice what's the state of the belly. And if you don't have a sensation in the belly, you just see whatever you can notice. And just be curious as you're just breathing, aware of the breath, with the hands there to help just facilitate some awareness there. Do you notice, is there any discomfort, any strain, could be very subtle or not so subtle? Can you let that relax? Can you let that go? And what is that? How do you let that go? What is that? Isn't that interesting just to observe? It's not really a doing. Maybe it's an undoing. So as you're if you're just practicing, just practicing being aware, curiosity, exploring this possibility of letting the belly relax as you're breathing, and just notice Does this change the breath at all? Without you trying to breathe in the right way, does it change the breath? Probably. Almost certainly. Maybe you find this is really quite enjoyable. Maybe you find it's easy. Maybe you find it's very difficult. Maybe you find it's unpleasant. So there's so many possibilities. And just notice that. Notice how do you react to those reactions. If you find it enjoyable, do you congratulate yourself? Do you think I've finally arrived? Or if it's difficult, do you beat yourself up? Oh, another thing I can't do. When will I get it right? I just got to try harder. So you just notice it's not about the right answer or the right response or the right anything. It's just learning about your own conditioning and discovering what's not conditioned. So just see what happens. Just a few more breaths. Notice if you have a tendency of pushing the breath out, what does that do to the belly? Notice when you inhale, does the belly tense up? Does it move freely? Be aware both at the surface and also inwardly. Maybe you notice subtler levels of habitual tension and reactivity deep in. If you really allow yourself, because the brain will argue, the conditioned mind will argue, oh, I can't do that. There's no innervation in there and can't feel it. But if you just allow yourself, you'll be amazed what you can discover beyond what you think you know. Okay, and then take the hands away and just let the arms relax. Just notice what that's like now. And notice what your reaction to that is. If it seems to be, you think, oh, that's better, then how do you react to that? If it seems worse to you, then how do you react to that? Did you have expectations? Was this supposed to produce a particular outcome? Would you know that you'd succeeded if you had a particular outcome and maybe you didn't achieve that, so you must have failed and now you feel bad about that? So it's just there's no right or wrong. There's just truthfulness. Just be truthful. It's just about observing. And you'll see that the beauty of this is that there really sincerely cannot be a right or wrong, and that everything without exception, what you consider to be good and what you consider to be bad, all of it is perfect in the sense that it perfectly reveals something of the conditioning, something of the habit, something of this habit of striving and identification, never arriving, never fully accepting. And just through this simple observation, you just notice whatever you notice the sensation, you notice the reaction, the opinion to the sensation, you notice the strategies for trying to deal with the sensation. You notice the judgments about your success or failure in that. So you're always either winning or losing, succeeding or failing, getting somewhere or not getting somewhere. And you can just observe that. Finally, you have this complete permission to do nothing but to observe everything. And by the way, nothing's prohibited, so you don't have to not do. See, when I say you have permission not to do, notice if the conditioned mind takes that and twists that into, I should do nothing. Am I doing anything? Uh-oh, I guess I am. I'm failing. So you see the ongoing levels upon levels upon levels of oppression, strangulation, judgment, condemnation, fear. And here in this simple process, simple inquiry, all you have to do is just notice, and that's it. There's nothing else needed. And see, the beauty of this is, even if you say, oh, I'm not sure I'm noticing. Yeah, you're noticing that, aren't you? You notice this tendency to judge that I'm not able to do it. I can't notice. I can't succeed in this. See, you're noticing that. Or you say, I don't even notice that. Well, that's fine. You notice that you're not even noticing that. I seem to just be zoning out. Yes, you're noticing that, aren't you? And and then if you, every moment is you get your foot in and it opens wide up, and you see the instant you notice that, you notice all this judgment unfolds, and you just see what that is. See it, and you just see how this constant self-judgment, self-condemnation. I'm not good enough. I'm not there. I'm not competent enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not this, that, or the other. Or for some people, it's a little different. It's a little variation on that theme. It's the world is no fair. The world's not right. The circumstances aren't right. I try so hard, but nothing ever works out for me. But just watch, just see how it all unfolds just by observing your direct experience. That's it. And if you get lost in this and you're not sure where to start again, just come back to noticing the breath. And just notice from the breath, notice the ways in which there's strain in the breath, hesitation. Notice how you tense up the face, and just gently explore through that awareness, just allowing that to soften, and then see what presents itself. It all unfolds, you see, because we're holding all of this armor and it's all to protect this notion of ourselves that's supposed to be something, supposed to be successful, supposed to be attractive, supposed to be intelligent, supposed to be, all these things. And you just see all of the conditioning there just by getting your foot in the door, through just being aware of the breath and then noticing the tension around the breath, gently releasing that And then see what unfolds. See, even if there's this judgment, oh, I can't release it. I can't even be aware of it. Perfect. That's what I mean. You cannot fail in this. There's no way to fail as long as you just tell the truth. So now, and this will be clearer to some than to others, but just notice that this awareness, which is silently watching, which is you, right? Because you're the one who's watching, you're the one who's aware. You are this silent vastness. And just notice that. So all of the conditioning is unfolding, all of this activity is taking place, the thoughts, the sensations, the judgments, the reactions, all of that's happening. And normally, of course, we're accustomed to thinking that has something to do with me, right? Because if there's a sensation and then a thought, and the thought says that sensation is a bad sensation, I shouldn't have that sensation. I say, oh no, I shouldn't be having this sensation. What am I going to do? How am I going to fix this? This is terrible. This is really completely unacceptable. I this means something bad about me. I'm not supposed to have this kind of experience. This must be called anxiety. Oh no. What do? I guess I'll go to go to that specialist. I'll take that program. Take that drug. I'll do this thing. I'll whatever. Oh, but just for this moment right now, just see that whatever the experiences are, good or bad, or you like it or you don't like it, whatever the case may be, you just notice that all of the experiences occurring in this awareness that you are. And just notice that. Don't try to do anything with that. Of course, that's usually the next thing, right? We leap right into, okay, what do I do with that? How do I make use of that? How do I fix myself based on this new piece of information? Forget about it. Just see it. That's it. Just notice. Just notice that you're aware. Don't try to do anything with that. If you try to do something with that, then you're right back in the same vicious cycle. Just becomes another thought, another experience. Still, the attention is fixated at that gross level. But what we're looking at here is we're noticing this subtler, what's subtler than that. And of course, you're not going to have competence here in the subtler because you don't have any experience or practice here. So don't judge yourself for that. Or if you do judge yourself, just be aware of that and let that come and go. It's fine. You don't need to get rid of judgment. It's totally fine, but just notice that and then see how that actually, when you allow it in this way, it invites you to rest and explore this subtle dimension where you start to see that perhaps it's opening up into this kind of soup where you don't know, what is this? What do I do with it? How is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. If you feel disoriented, confused, uncertain, that's fine. That's a good sign. Notice that there's actually you can notice a sense of openness actually, maybe in the body, in the head, energetically. And then maybe you notice a kind of hesitation there, like, oh, I don't know if this is safe. Now, if you're experienced with this, maybe you have less of that. If you're experienced with this, maybe you've started to discover, whoa, this is really nice. What a relief. I'm very happy to be able to just relax a little bit. But if it's unfamiliar to you, then just know maybe you notice some hesitation, maybe some apprehension. Oh, I don't know, it seems a little dangerous. So that's okay. That's also a good sign. It just means you're moving in the right direction. You're moving out of this realm of certainty of misery, but certainty, into this realm of where there's incompetence, non-certainty. Good. And just notice there's a kind of opening. The mind opens, the mind relaxes. And as I say, there can be apprehension. There can be, oh, I don't know. How will I lose my mind? Will I lose myself? Will I be attacked? Will I die? Will I do something foolish? Will I not figure out my problem, which is really urgent? Whatever. So that's okay. You just notice that. And just in that noticing, see how that's just one more step into the unknown, one more step into this openness. So now you just see, can you just allow yourself just to remain with this openness? And here, depending on, now everybody's going to be a little different here because of different levels of recognition and confidence and experience. So for some of you, this is enough. You just you've never gone swimming. You just need to keep dipping your toe in the water. So you just hang out here. You just sort of, you notice that tendency to quickly grasp, to close, to go back to certainty, to worry, to, all of the usual thing. And then just, again, just experiment with, be aware, just notice the breath, relax the unnecessary tension, and just observe what happens, and then see how that starts to open you. How there's these all of these limitations and the definitions and the boundaries of your imaginary self start to dissolve. And notice, yes, that can be a little scary at first, but also notice what a liberation that is. Just in this one instant, just to notice that, oh, for this one moment, I don't have to focus on my problems. For this one moment, I don't have to focus on my body. For this one moment, I don't have to focus on my relationships. For this one moment, I don't have to focus on my bank account. For this one moment, I don't have to focus on, my legacy, what people think of me. Just for one moment, all of that can, wow, that's such a relief. They can just soften, dissolve a little bit, even if I am kind of anxious and fearful. That's better, isn't it? Just a little bit. So if that's where you're at, you just hang out there. You just explore that, because you don't want to, you should always be gentle. If you push too far, you just stress yourself unnecessarily. So you just gently explore that. Now, if you're more confident with this kind of exploration, maybe you notice, no, I can just let that open even more. Maybe you notice it starts to be blissful. There's like a tingling, a vibration, sensation of openness, of newness, of support, and that you can just start to follow that just guides you. So you just surrender to that and let that guide you just as far as is appropriate for you. You notice where the edge is, where you start to feel that apprehension. Oh, I'm not sure. Okay, that's it. You just explore that and let yourself develop that comfort and confidence so that you then know, I can allow this level of openness. I can allow this level of dissolving. I can allow this level of uncertainty. I can allow this level of surrender. And then just notice wherever you are in this exploration, just notice again that you're aware. You are aware of this entire experience. So just notice that whatever is happening, whether you have judgments or not, whether you find it to be pleasurable or not, or whatever the case may be, just notice that you're aware. So even at this level of subtler experience, it's changing. So it's not constant. The enlivening of the bliss, or the enlivening of that tingling, or the enlivening of a sense of silence, or whatever the case may be, this comes and goes. It's not a eternal thing, changes. So just notice, though, that you who are aware is the same you who you've always known yourself to be. So you're not discovering that you are something else. You're discovering that you really are you, the real you. The real you you've always known yourself to be. And that this real you is so much simpler, in a sense, than who you had imagined yourself to be. So then you can start to notice this, as I say, there's a continuity through all the layers of experiences, from the very subtlest all the way through to the gross level. I am this person, I am this body, I am these thoughts, I am these experiences, I have to do all these things. It's me versus the universe. Through that entire range, from the most subtle to the most gross level, that there's a continuity, which is yourself, which is awareness, which is openness, which is not something other than who you've always known yourself to be. It's just you. It's just the formless, nameless you. You can see that's always the case. Now, this, as I say, this deepest longing is to know who I am. So nothing else can offer true fulfillment. And hopefully that's clear, or clearer. And now you have a direct experience, hopefully, that you can, there can start to be some recognition of that. Oh, I'm myself. I am this that I've always known myself to be, just without all of the unnecessary baggage of everything that I imagined myself to be. Anything that could be lost, I'm not that. Because I remain when everything that can be lost is lost. So this recognition is essential. It's the only, as I say, it's the only thing that can truly offer deep, real satisfaction. And yet, notice that still this doesn't instantly necessarily, I suppose it could, but it doesn't necessarily instantly transform all levels of experience. It doesn't necessarily integrate into all levels of experience fully. And so these habits of identification, habits of condemnation, judgment, they may continue. And so now the baseline, the fundamental, essential recognition, which we come back to over and over and over and over and over, is this recognition of who am I? So once this is glimpsed, it's easier to glimpse again, because you have greater clarity about it. And once you've glimpsed it many, many times, then it's even easier. So you have at least one direct experience now. For many of you, you have many, and each one you can see that it's clarifying. But then we also want to see, now let's allow this to integrate, this recognition to integrate at all levels, which means we still observe, and we want to observe through all of these subtle layers of expression so that we can see, okay, this silent awareness that I am is not in fact separate from this manifest world. So now let's be curious about what is this process by which this is manifesting? What is the process by which this is appearing? And we can see how these habits form, and we can, through this continuous conscious awareness, we can dissolve those unnecessary false limitations, and we can allow a purer expression of this openness at all levels. So it's an ongoing process. So the fundamental essence is to come, we could say, back through from the gross to the subtle. You know, we're usually, our starting point in terms of our attention is at some gross level relatively, and we want to allow ourselves to inquire in the direction of subtlety. So many techniques are available. This simple technique that I've guided you through today is one of the more powerful. It's very accessible. All you have to do is just observe your breathing, release unnecessary effort, and then just observe what presents itself. And there's no way to fail at it so long as you do it sincerely. Because if you say, oh, I'm failing, I'm not doing it right, not having good results, then see, that's all you need to observe. You just see that that's the conditioning, and you just keep observing, and it takes you to subtler and subtler and subtler until it starts to open up, and then it opens up more and opens up more. And so you're traversing from gross to subtle. Eventually you come to this recognition, I am this pure, undivided stillness, silence, awareness. And then we want to then consciously traverse from the subtle to the gross. Because if we just pop from one extreme to the other, we don't ever gain any skill in the intermediary. So we're not skillful in the process of creation. We're only skillful in popping from one extreme to the other. So this inquiry is a two-way process. We inquire from gross to subtle, and then from subtle to gross, so that we can observe the process by which, as we started today, intention gives shape to experience. So you see, this is why I often point out that if the intention is, I just want to feel better, I just want to feel good, then you can watch, when you have enough skill in this, you can actually watch how does that intention give shape to the experience? And is that an experience that I want to have more of? I'm suggesting it's not. Because what you'll see is that what that produces is it's a polarization. And so it necessarily creates this inherent in that is, I'm feeling bad. So no matter how good you feel, your starting point is always, I'm feeling bad. So no good is ever going to be good enough. But if we just are observing in this way, all of it takes care of itself. You see, you just observe from the gross level to the subtle, just by just noticing, just observing, seeing how it all unfolds before you, and don't do anything with it. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to judge the judgments. You just see them. You just see, there it is. Yes, thank you. You just can actually be grateful to be able to see it, because in the seeing, you're actually recognizing your inherent freedom. You're not that. You're aware of it. And it becomes in that freedom, that experience of freedom becomes enlivened the more that you just observe, because you have the direct experience of whatever is arising comes and goes, and I remain. I am the constant. I am that which is continuous, not as a thought, not as a theory, but as an actual experience, because you just are watching silently. And so you just keep seeing over and over, I am the silent watching. And then from that direct recognition of that true nature, then at the subtlest, start to just observe, how does anything come into creation? How does anything come about? Watch your experience take shape. And then you see what role intention has, what role habit has, and who you are in that process. So that's it for our formal portion today. And for those who are here live, we'll stay on for the Q&A. Just end this recording.